too. Me too. My nose is a little bit sore from yesterday. I got punched in the nose and I woke up a little bit like a blood coagulation or something like that.
Broke mine a couple of years ago and deviated septum and nasal conchas and stuff. So
How did you break it?
sparring.
Okay, just like light sparring, hard sparring, or
It's pretty hard.
yeah. Where was it?
For the other guy. TriStar.
TriStar at Montreal.
Yeah.
Cool gym, man. It's a gangster gym.
Yeah.
I think they've been open for a long time, huh?
Should I put this on? Or?
Yeah, go ahead if you want. Yeah, so we can hear each other better.
Oh yeah, this will be terrible. I can hear my voice now. Awful.
Your voice always sounds awful when you listen to it.
Yeah, but when other people listen to my voice too,
It's not that bad,
awful.
dude. It's not that bad. Okay, so Joey, how did you start MMA? Like, what's the like? I feel like people like you started young, right? Doing MMA.
I started at 18.
That's
so-
pretty. I feel like maybe not by today's standard because like it's like such an evolved sport, but not such evolved, but it's more like common and evolved. But when you were 18, it's 13 years ago, so 2010. 2010, you like MMA wasn't that popular as today.
No, but
Don't
there
feel
was.
like it.
It wasn't as popular in the mainstream, but that's when the boom really happened. That 2007 to 2010 range, that's when things really
Took
had,
off.
George St. Pierre, you had Brock Lesnar, and the UFC was really starting to go to that next level. It was kind of like that golden age where the cards were still really good, and it was like a big deal for a UFC card to come up, right? People looked forward to it. The hype was better.
Yeah.
Now there's a fight every weekend, and nobody knows who's fighting, and
Yeah,
Like-
I saw the video that you shared on the Click group, like the fight from the guy with the gi and the
Oh,
other guy
yeah.
he just charged him.
yeah, Gary Goodrich, he's Canadian.
That's a fucking crazy fight.
Yeah.
So the guy without the gi is a Canadian,
Yeah,
and
Gary
he
Goodrich
just
is
bum
from
rushed.
Ontario.
He just bum rushed the big black guy in the gi, and he got
Yeah.
fucking crucifixed and just got finished.
Yeah.
Bro, I was laughing my ass off.
Little shout out to Easter there.
Oh my god, yeah. So that UFC like wasn't that as much popular, but there was still not that many, like a lot of people in the stands, not that bad. But you're true, like 2006, 2007, I remember, man. Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture. I fucking love Randy Couture, man. He was a bad motherfucker in those years.
Yeah, it was the peak of the UFC Pride era, and then the acquisition, and then things changed from there.
Yeah. So you started in 2010. So it was like the beginning of like the golden era of MMA almost.
When I started, Brock Lesnar was UFC champion. So yeah,
It's been a pretty
bit.
long time, yeah.
yeah.
So what pushed you to get started in MMA? What was like the day, like the first day you entered in a gym?
So I'll tell you the real story because it's more embarrassing. When I was a kid, I discovered pro wrestling from my neighbor who was also named Joey, and he was a year older than me. And this guy was my bully, but my best friend as well.
Like a big brother type of deal.
Yeah, and he was the Stone Cold Steve Austin of the playground. If you ever see Josh at the gym, ask him about him. He'll tell you all these absurd stories. I don't know how Josh remembers these things, but anyway.
Okay.
I discovered pro wrestling at a young age and was addicted to it. I absolutely loved it. I was a small, shy, skinny kid, and obviously pro wrestling's the opposite of that.
Yeah, it's like a big, muscular, eccentric man, fucking with a
these
lot of
big,
energy.
charismatic dudes, like really posturing, and it's like a wild form of entertainment, especially the 90s. That's when it was like really crazy, right?
Yeah, I feel like it was more violent then than now, right?
It was more violent and more silly too, right? There was a lot of silly matches and these silly like angles and
Like get the box thing.
storylines. Yeah,
Like you need to like go up a ladder and get a fucking box from the roof, and everyone was just fucking cutting each other off. And
Yeah, and thumbtacks on the trash cans, They're hitting each other with everything, and like the storylines are just silly. But it made for entertaining television, right? That was the peak of the 90s, like Crash TV, right? Anyway, I loved pro wrestling up until my late teens, and my whole life I wanted to be a professional wrestler. As embarrassing as that sounds, but
But it was cool then. Like right now, it's like cheesy. I feel like, but then it was fucking cool.
Yeah. I think maybe back in the day, like 70s and 80s, it was probably cooler because they were still keeping it secret, and there was still people in the South that thought it was real, right?
Okay. People in the South?
Yeah, like in the States, right? Like
Yeah,
it
I
was
understand.
it was a big deal in the United States. Like that's where pro wrestling comes from catch wrestling, right? It just
Okay.
and catch wrestling is just submission grappling, really.
Okay.
And then it became, like folk style wrestling in the States, right? So like
Okay.
the collegiate style wrestling you can watch now,
Mm-hmm.
which is like a subset. It's like a different style of freestyle wrestling in the Olympics. But yeah, that's where pro wrestling comes from. It comes from catch wrestling, so it comes from the real submission grappling. But I don't know how I went on that tangent.
Yeah, because we were talking about how you first got interested in like MMA. So you were saying that you were like a little bit like of a shy kid. You felt like you were skinny. You felt like, I guess you felt like not like an alpha male, and you were watching TV like seeing all these fucking alpha males, fucking huge with fucking big
Yeah,
guns and
and I love entertainment. Like I was not meant to be like I'm not built to be an athlete. I fought MMA and stuff, but like I would have been better suited doing something else, I think.
okay. What do you mean by something else? Like not sports, just like something else,
Well,
like in general.
I've moved around and done stuff my whole life. I like sports, but I think I really like the entertainment aspect of pro wrestling. I think that was the cool side of it. I mean, I've always loved. I mean, that's why I still do MMA now, right? I still grapple. I love it.
Yeah.
I don't have the talent, I guess, or the raw materials, probably maybe
Or
even
like
the
the raw
minds.
athleticism.
Yeah, the more stereotypical athleticism or the more stereotypical mindset. Although everyone's different,
Yeah.
not everyone fits that mold either. You don't need that to fight, but it's more commonly associated with that stuff, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, I got in. I was obsessed with pro wrestling, and my whole plan was I'm going to go to a pro wrestling school and then just travel all around the world. That's all I wanted to do. I had no plans. And then when I woke up and was like, oh, this pro wrestling stuff's pretty lame. I'm a little late to figure this out. What do I do now? And I moved out here for college, and
And get to know.
yep.
Okay.
And I was like, the hell am I going to do now?
Because you went to a pro wrestling
No,
gym.
I didn't. No,
Okay,
I
okay.
didn't. The plan was to go to college and then, just keep lifting. I started working out at a young age, and I was like, I'll get jacked first, and then when I'm 20, I'll go to this wrestling school when I'm done college. Keep my parents happy.
Yeah.
And so then, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. What the hell am I going to do?
Because
And I
you-
didn't want to go to school. I was just in school to
Please your parents.
yeah, not piss anyone off. And
But was it when you learned that pro wrestling was fake? Because I feel like
No,
there was a moment that people.
I think I knew it was fake when I was
Okay.
6, 7 years old. Like it was common knowledge back then, right?
Oh, okay.
But like when you're a kid, you don't really care. It still looked cool.
It looks fucking cool. That's true.
So then I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I was like, well,
That was the first martial art you did?
no, I did karate for 5 years in my hometown.
5 years?
But it was recreational, right? Like
okay.
2-3 times a week, and but that's what got me into MMA. My instructors, one of them I think wrestled in university. The other one did Kyokushin and kickboxing, and they loved MMA. They were like, I think if they lived in the city, they would have probably trained, striking and grappling, and they were like real fans. They were actually pretty good role models. Like they were a good introduction to what like good coaching and good on and off the mat,
So they were like real, legit karate instructors.
Yeah, I mean, I guess legit's a big word, right? But like they competed, they did point sparring tournaments. I think they won some categories. They were real athletes. They played hockey and they just loved to move. So that's why I say they were like a pretty good role model. They were very encouraging and like just nice, and it made it just a good time. And
But
that's
they
what
like
got me into
initiated
MMA.
to like to the martial arts universe, like being disciplined, working hard, and fucking like never giving up.
And more importantly, I think just having a good time, because the first instructor was from Montreal and much more traditional, like bow and everything's got to be just so. And I'm not that guy. These guys were from my hometown. These other two.
Okay.
So they had like that East Coast vibe, but still training hard and being respectful. So that was cool. And they got me into MMA. I started watching from there. And then when I moved out here, I was like, well, I'll give it a go. And I was like, well, I don't want to work for a living, so maybe I'll take a stab at fighting professionally for a living. Like a pretty big stretch, in hindsight.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, so you started doing weights, then 5 years of like hobby karate, and then you started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
Okay, and where did you start doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
I started at Awama, so Ottawa Academy of Martial Arts. They're still running. They got a couple of gyms in Ottawa. Yeah.
Okay, how old were you when you started?
18.
18, you started doing BJJ?
Yep.
And how was the first month, let's say? Because the first month, I feel like it's a make or break month. Usually for a lot of people, like if it's either you fucking love it or either you fucking hate it. I feel like there's no like in between.
It was an easy transition for me because I loved like just play wrestling and getting beat up by my friends and stuff.
You liked it?
Yeah, I loved wrestling. Like if I would have grown up in a city where there was scholastic wrestling, I would have definitely done that.
Okay, just like pure wrestling.
Yeah, I absolutely love it.
Freestyle,
like,
pure wrestling.
Yeah, like if that was available to me, I'm sure I would have done it and liked it.
That's a fucking hard sport, man.
Yeah.
It's such a fucking hard sport, man. Like just when we do like our BJJ, like, and when we start like doing like rolling and we start like standing, you burn so much fucking energy trying to get the guy down, man. Just takedowns fucking kills you. Like, can't imagine for 5 minutes. Because wrestling that's the point, right? You're standing up, taking the guy down, getting points, pinning him, getting more points, getting back up, doing the shape, like, fuck, man, it's a fucking grueling sport.
Yeah, it's no easy task, that's for sure. I think even Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is pretty hard, but
you can coast sometimes, I feel like.
There's more time spent on the mat, right? So it's a little less exerting, and depending on the style or like the gym you're at, it might be a little bit easier to. But like guys who compete in grappling, there's nothing easy about it, right? Getting ready for it's not for most people. I think it's probably not fun, right? You got some guy holding you down, sweating on you, and grinding their knuckles into your whatever, and just like squeezing the life out of you. It definitely can suck too, right? But I think I started young enough, and I had the interest anyway, so none of that stuff was like what do they call that? Like it wasn't pulling me away from it.
Okay.
It wasn't a deal breaker.
So the first month you were like, I fucking love this shit when you started doing BJJ?
Yeah, I wasn't a very confident guy. No surprises there, probably. So I wanted.
You have a low self-esteem of yourself, man.
I'm just self-aware.
That's good.
But I would have loved to have just dropped everything and done that. But I was like, man, like I can't do that. Like I'm from a small town too, right? Like you don't just like quit everything and do something niche like that, right? You got to work, you got to go to school.
Especially in those days, like jiu-jitsu wasn't such a viable as today. Like people have careers today and shit, and jiu-jitsu more.
And even then it's a stretch, right? It's like you're not doing the most normal thing, right? So.
Yeah, so the first month, like getting grinded on, getting choked out, getting fucking like hurt, you were just fucking loving it and loving the pain and the suffering, and you were all in.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard for sure, but no, I enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoy it more than I did back then, actually.
Okay, so where do you think that, like, because it's not like it's like for me, like let's say for me, it took me some time to like enjoy the suck, because I feel like before, when I was younger, I was a little bit more of a pussy. Like if I was going to say like confidently, like before, if someone was like if something was annoying me, I'm like, oh fuck it, I'm just not gonna fucking do it. Like fuck that shit. Like even when I was younger, I tried BJJ like in the Gatineau, like when I was younger, like at Terrien, with the gi and everything. When I was young, I was like, oh, why are we fucking hurting each other? Like what's the fucking point? Like I just want to go play soccer and like just have fun with my friends. But now I get older, and now I learn like that life is fucking hard, and like you like basically you have to choose like your suffering.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, fuck, now like I don't know, like now I'm 26, I'm more mature, but now I fucking love BJJ. Like, but I wouldn't have loved it at 18, because at 18 I was more of a pussy. I was like, if things were bothering me, I was just like, oh fuck it, I don't want to do it. But now I understand that it's important to do things that you fucking hate, or that fucking grinds you, because it fucking builds a character. So I'm on. How did you like at 18? You were like, okay, fuck it. Like I know that I need to suffer. Like, what do you think? Like,
I just didn't see it that way. You know, I had a pretty easy life. You know, like my parents were good, and I lived in a good community. Didn't have any like major struggles. You know, but for me, I think what I wanted, I guess, is I just wanted to do stuff I enjoyed. I didn't really want to compromise on, and that's a hard thing, I think, is, like for anyone, but especially in like a blue collar town. It's like, well, the whole like thing is like, well, you got to go to work, you got to do this, you got to
And
do
work
that.
hard, like
And
fucking
yeah, you got to work
construction.
hard, and it's like, you know, a lot of people do thankless jobs, and it's not easy, right? And I've done a bit of that. You know, I've worked construction. I've done all. I'm not good at any of it. I hate it. I'm not even good at getting up in the morning to this day. But no, for me, it wasn't. And like, I'm not trying to downplay. Like, it is hard for sure. But I always see this stuff as like it's a choice. And if you hate it, I don't know if you should do it. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think anyone should do anything they truly hate. And I'm not talking about like doing the dishes, but like, you know, you got to do that stuff. But like, if you got to get up every morning and you got to do something for half the day or so and you hate it, like, you got to get out. There's just too many other things to do. You know, there's so much else you can do. So like, why do something you hate? Like, you can't do something for the outcome. If you just do it for the outcome, you won't be happy. Like, you'll be disappointed.
Because nothing comes quick, man. You always have to put a fucking a lot of hours in, and you have to love the process, or it's not just
You have
not
to
worth
enjoy
it.
it, right? Because like,
Yeah.
otherwise, what's the point? Like, you're gonna get the $5 medal at the jiu-jitsu tournament, or the, you know, the fake belt that everyone has in the amateur championships, or like, even if you do get to the next level and get something big, like, will it really be worth the squeeze? Like, how much would you really need to like sacrifice all that time and give up all that time, right? Like, what's the point?
Or like people like chasing belts, like if you're not ready to get choked and get fucking like abused, like you can't just think about getting the next belt. Like I feel like you just need to like enjoy the process because there's gonna be so much like
Yeah, you should like what you do. It should stimulate you because,
Yeah.
like, I mean, I don't know. It's just how I see it.
Yeah, no, that's a good way of seeing
especially
it.
something like this. It's leisure, right? It's like anything that's a sport is like you're doing childlike things for either for, you know, people who do it professionally. They're doing it for money. So like I don't want to say they lucked out, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
there's still an element of luck and an element of opportunity that you have to like seize and stuff.
Yeah.
But like it's a pretty sweet deal if you enjoy it on top, like, which you should.
Yeah.
Damn, that's awesome, right?
Like most guys, like we pay to go to the gym and we go there on our free time.
Yeah,
So
I mean-
that's like because like that's what we fucking love to do. Like
Yeah.
this is what I do with my free time. I go to the gym, I hang out with the boys, and we fucking choke each other.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we fucking do, you know.
Yeah. And it's still hard, right?
Yeah.
There's no way around it, but
Yeah.
like it's worth it, right?
And like usually, like you're like a pretty calm guy. Like you don't seem violent or anything. Like and
No,
because
I-
usually people like they associate mixed martial arts like with being like fucking like the stereotypical I'm fucking strong motherfucker. If somebody looks at me the longer I'm gonna fucking kill him. Like people
Yeah.
think that from people who do. But you're like the most calm guy ever. Like you're so like.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's different for everyone too, right? Like, there's definitely those guys, and some of those guys have the huge like, I don't know, the rage or the
But they don't
the
go far. I
machismo.
feel like in mixed martial
I'm sure
arts.
some still probably do, but like,
think
it's
so?
I don't think that's conducive to anything, right? Like, that wouldn't get you by in any line of work, right? So like, sport is no different. Like, if you got to be consistent and you got to like, you know, push through the hard times and the the workouts you may not feel like doing and stuff. Like, I don't think rage will carry you probably as far as
It
like,
probably even like just fuck you over. Like when you start and
Oh,
you
for
get angry
sure.
because like a purple belt is fucking choking you on, and you just get fucking angry. Oh fuck this guy! Like that can just ruin you more.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, it's probably not sustainable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You need to be humble, man. Fucking humbles you the sport.
Yeah, and that's hard too, right? Like, I mean, it's there's nothing fun about getting your ass kicked, especially if you think, oh, I should be doing better today, or I should be doing better against this guy. That stuff's hard. It takes a lot of time and training, I think, to get that out of you. You know, coaching can help, and gym culture and the environment and your training partners, but there's also still like the internal aspect where like you just got to get used to that. And
Yeah. It cannot be like a competitive gym where everyone's just looking to take everyone's head off, or like I could imagine maybe a gym where there's a lot of like competitive guys. Maybe then there can be like where if there are a lot of competitive guys doing competition, then I can see it where it can go like a little bit sour because it depends how it is.
It's never going to be perfect, right? Like we're none of us are the same every day. You're never the same every day. Like every day is different. So some days, you're gonna like yell and swear
Be
at
mad
someone and throw your bag across the room. But like, that happens, right? Like you can't like you can't avoid it completely, right?
Yeah,
So,
I find myself like more being mad at myself.
yeah.
Like sometimes I curse myself in my head. Like I'm like, fuck, man. Why am I always like? I'm not mad at the guy. I'm mad at myself. That's what. Or like even when I'm sparring, like the guy gets on, like, fuck. Why did you like? I'm never mad at the guy. I'm always mad at myself. It's weird.
Yeah, I'm more that way as well.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to ask yourself why, because if you're constantly upset with yourself, there's probably something wrong too, right? You either maybe you're not task focused, maybe you're not externally focused on like what you're doing, maybe you're like beating yourself up too much for whatever reason, maybe
you're not practicing enough and you're fucking just like, I don't know, or you're not seeing progress, or could be a number of different things. I feel like
it's important to manage that as well, because I was more of the type to like beat myself up a lot and
like always like feeling like you suck and you're never like progressing and
what's the expression, right? Comparison is the
thief of joy.
Yeah, and
that's true, man.
That's real. Like you don't. Comparison is inevitable. Like you're going to do it anyway, but you don't want to proactively do it. I don't think like it's a dangerous game to play if you're doing that all the time, because again, it's outside of you, right? It's not really within your control. So,
and also, I think you need to be realistic. Like, how the fuck are you supposed to think that you're supposed to be better than this guy that's been training fucking hard for the last 5 years and you've been training for 1 year? Like, what do you think? Like, you think this guy has been sucking and getting killed for 5 years and you're supposed to come here and beat him? Like, that's just not realistic. Like,
and it goes like in every which way. Like, if you started training at the same time as someone, you're never going to be equal. That it can happen, but it's not likely. And someone new can come in. This is more common for people who have been training maybe less than a year, but someone new can come in and give you a hard time. Like it's not a battle of knowledge, right? It's not like you memorize a couple moves and it's like, well, like I'm supposed to beat you up because I know X, Y, and Z. So, well, I mean, if he's holding you down, he's holding you down. Yeah. So
it's not fair. It's not a fair sport.
Yeah, it's not, right? It's very real. So.
Yeah, that's true. So to get back at your like MMA journey, so you started BJJ at Owama. That's the name of the school. Okay, how many years were you there?
I was there 6 years.
Okay, 6 years. Training how many times a week?
I don't know, probably anywhere from 4 to 6, 7 days a week.
Oh, okay.
Okay, pretty consistent the whole time.
And were you competing also?
Yeah, I started competing pretty quick into it. I think about a year in. And
really?
Started with jiu-jitsu. I did that competed in that for a couple years, and then I did
with the gi.
Yeah. Wama is primarily a gi gym. I'm not sure what it's like now, but it was very gi heavy.
Okay, but no gi at that time was very rare, right? Like
it was seen as like an additional thing on the side. It was like a niche within a niche, but I always preferred no gi. I mean, I watched MMA, and whenever there was a tournament, I would do both when it was available.
Okay, so then you transitioned into doing MMA fights also. Yeah,
I started fighting MMA. I think I was 22 or 23.
So by then you were doing 22. 3 years of jiu-jitsu? 4 year.
I had trained 3 years, I think, before I started fighting.
But were you training MMA also? Or you were just doing grappling?
For those 3 years, it was mostly grappling. I did do some MMA, but the way the gym was laid out and the way things were done at the time, it was usually suggested you get good at one thing first and then do the other. I don't agree with that, but that was kind of the way things were done back then.
But why not just get good at MMA? Because MMA is a sport in itself.
Yeah, I think you should start MMA. If you want to do MMA, you have to do MMA.
You have to do
right
MMA.
away.
Because grappling, there's MMA. It's not the same.
No.
It's completely because you can get punched. So fucking that changes the shit a lot. Like,
Yeah,
it's not the same spacing. It's not the same moves. It's completely different.
Yeah, it's at its core, all the martial arts are extremely similar. But the rules are what really dictate it, right? So I mean, if you're allowed to punch and kick and knee and elbow, and you want to be an MMA fighter, well, you're gonna have to make sure you're training that, right? And you'll want to, there's some debate on this, I'm sure, but like, I think it's probably best practice to, in some way or another, do the full thing every time you train.
You just do MMA the whole way, and
yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to spend time in every aspect in one single training session, but it should hit all the big points. So there should be some sort of overlap. So striking and grappling every day, I think.
And when you did your MMA fights, how was your striking?
Oh, it was terrible. It's still pretty bad. Yeah.
But when you did the fights, it wasn't.
I didn't know how to throw a punch my first couple fights. I don't think I threw any for my first, pretty much all my amateur fights. Yeah.
All your amateur MMA fights, you weren't throwing strikes.
No, I'd move around and maybe throw
That's pretty insane when you think about it.
Fakes and then shoot for a double and hold them down and submit them.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It was terrible in hindsight. It was not thoughtful preparation. And I don't say that to throw shade at the gym or anything. That's what the time was back then, and that's how things were done. When I was not everywhere, of course. But
when you told your coach I want to do MMA amateur fights, he was like, okay, no problem, just fucking wrestle him, shoot for a double leg and get him down and hold him there. Or?
Well, we'd prepare, but this. It was just a different time.
Okay.
I think,
It wasn't as
we used to do striking, we used to do grappling, we used to do MMA, but it was.
Yeah, so you did striking when you start, you practice regularly.
Yeah, I mean, I it's almost too long to get into, I guess.
Okay.
But the training wasn't, in my opinion, now I look back on it and it seems fairly obvious. But the training wasn't representative enough of what MMA is.
Your training didn't prepare you well for when you were actually in the cage in the fight. Then you're like, holy shit, all bets are off. Everything that I.
You do what you know. There's no. If you're not prepared properly, you're going to do what you do.
Yeah.
So I did what I did. I used to wrestle and grapple, so that's what I did. I took guys down and submitted them.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so you did how many amateur fights?
7.
7? Okay, and then pro fights you did?
3.
3?
Yeah.
And I know also you went to Scotland or Scotland or Ireland?
I went to Ireland.
What was the reason?
I really wanted to train there. I wanted to train at SBG, Straight Blast Gym. That's John Kavanagh's gym, where Conor McGregor, Gunnar Nelson, and so many other high-level guys are training at now.
Okay. Yeah. So you just flew over there to Ireland, started working a job over there, and...
saved up a bit of money, and my parents helped me out a little bit, and so I was lucky in that sense.
How was the training?
Training was great. That was my first exposure to proper MMA training. I had already had some ideas on what that would be. And was trying to self-direct my own training. I've always tried to self-direct my own training as much as I could. Mm-hmm. Started at a pretty early age, but that was my first exposure to, I guess, one of the big super gyms. SBG at the time was huge. Conor had already won the belt.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so it just exploded.
Yeah, there was never a shortage of guys to train with.
That's what happens. I feel like at gym, same thing at TriStar Montreal. When GSP put the gym on the map basically, by winning. And right now, City Kickboxing in New Zealand popped off because of Volkanovski and Adesanya. So I guess that's what happens with gyms. When there's a guy who really goes far, then it fucking promotes the shit out of the gym.
Not just in gyms, but in countries, right? If there's a sport where athletes aren't represented in that country and then one does it, then there's a snowball effect.
Yeah.
I don't know.
GSP did a lot for Canada, man. He did a lot for Canada.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We have class, 3 minutes?
Yeah, we started at 12:05, so we had a couple minutes.
Okay, start 12:05. Okay. All right. So I like to ask this question to people. If you could give advice, when did you start doing martial arts? Like 13, because you did 5 years of karate.
Yeah, 13.
If you could give one piece or a couple of pieces of advice, let's say Joey, 13 years old, was there, and you could talk to him now, being 31.
Yeah.
If you could give him advice for his MMA journey, what would you say to him?
I guess I'd say this to him. I'd say this to anyone. If you want to do something and you're pretty sure, but like afraid, or maybe you have this doubt, just do it. Because even if you totally flop, you'll flop much faster. You won't waste
Just get it out. Just get out of the way.
Yeah. If you want to do something, don't think too long. And if you're not sure what to do, just do anything. Because we perceive to act, but we also act to perceive. So if you don't perceive anything, just act. And you never know what you'll find. So
just fucking go head first and fucking just try it and just get it out of the way.
Don't waste any time. Just do it, and you'll be better off for it. And even if it doesn't feel like that in the moment, maybe there's a big failure, it'll be all right.
That's a good piece of advice, man. Just fucking try it. Don't be scared. Don't overthink. Don't fucking go into
easy to say, right?
Yeah,
Very
of
easy
course,
advice to
of
give.
course.
Very hard to actually do, but I think just repeating that probably
until it becomes easier.
Probably helps people. Yeah.
Was it like the same process when you decide to start the gym? You just let's just fucking do it.
Yeah, that was my first time in my life just saying let's just do it. Like I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do what I think my way. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
So how is it until now? You happy? It was a good decision.
Yeah,
I'm fucking happy, man, that you opened the gym, and I'm fucking happy. I fucking love the gym, man.
Yeah, me too, and I'm glad people are enjoying it. And it's again first time for me to actually just saying fuck it, let's go, and no turning back now. So
cool. All right, so maybe cut a quick promo for the gym. I already talked about it on this podcast a few times. If you guys are interested in doing BJJ, Muay Thai, kickboxing, even MMA classes, go check the Click website. I saw right now you have 2 weeks for $10.
2 weeks, $10. ClickMMA.com. My number's 438-379-8320. Send me a text if you need anything, and I'll get you in the gym. And
don't be scared, guys. Like Joey says, like if you're hesitating, you watch UFC, it looks cool. The guys are fucking going at it. You don't need to be scared. Just come, try out, and it's not that this big scary thing as you people think it is.
No, not at all. Right? Like in the end, we're exercising. Right? This is physical fitness and exercising and learning something. So. And what's $10, right? So.
Exactly. For 2 weeks. Yeah. You can come 10 times if you want in the 2 weeks.
That's right.
There you go. All right, guys. So thanks, Joey, for coming on, man. And we'll go train now.
Yeah, let's train.
All right.